Welcome to Satsang. Yes, I.
Someone asked me to describe openness to them today, and I said I think the easiest way for me to describe it would be when I see myself avoiding anything or tightening in the body. If I'm conscious enough, I go towards that thing that I'm trying to avoid and trying to relax my body, and then catching where my mind is stuck or in a belief or addictive demand and letting that go, coming back to zero, coming back to being more empty or available or receptive. What would your criticism of that description be?
Open, closed. Anything else?
Something else that came to me today was,
You want to, the problem with what you, the statement, then the question you indicated was the number of words you used. It just takes people into their heads. It doesn't set them free. It's a bit like philosophy, a waste of life. Truth is simple. It's not complex. All complexity is in the way.
something that just came to me on the way here was how you describe people's yearning after comfort being in the way of higher consciousness. How does that contrast with your sadhana when you were the sadhana you were given by your teacher of being relaxed? How would you say they differ? Because one, that sadhana of being relaxed is something to pursue in higher consciousness, whereas being comfortable isn't necessarily.
Learning to be relaxed under all circumstances is probably the hardest thing a human being will have to learn. Being relaxed while under fire, being relaxed while giving fire, being relaxed while everything is going wrong, being relaxed while death is so close, when violence is so close, remaining relaxed. That's very difficult for a human being to master. And that was my sadhana. But I practiced it until I mastered it. Whatever you practice, you get good at. If you don't practice, you don't get good at anything. It's simple.
Was the game of zero, coming back to zero as you describe it, sometimes finding that relaxation for you?
The practice of surrender is what works. You surrender result. The reason people get uptight usually is because they want a result. They're insisting on something positive or trying to avoid something negative. Can you be okay with any result? Or are you going to go into resistance and get stressed out? Your choice. I like cool. It works really well in every aspect in life. Upset and tense usually creates failure.
That's all.
Some people stay cool by avoiding life. They play life be out of it. Quite often they're Buddhists. They lock themselves away in monasteries and talk softly to everyone. I wonder how they'd go under fire. I wonder how they'd go when everything's going wrong, when life is being threatened. That type of calm, that type of cool isn't worth anything because you can't bring it into the marketplace. In the marketplace, things go wrong. Life gets threatened. You're not in a sanctuary, hermiting yourself away from life. You're in life. And the more you squeeze the juice out of life, the more likelihood there is going to be complications. It's up to you. I don't advise people to lock themselves away to find peace. That's silly. That's just life be out of it. I encourage people to celebrate life, to be in life fully. That's best. But that's up to you. You create your reality by your actions and by how you think. Any questions? Any statements? Or does anyone have anything they'd like to chat about? Yes.
Sometimes I notice, I think in myself, that I'm like a hurt, spiteful child. And sometimes I see myself as a good man doing good and wanting to do more. And sometimes I'm just mixed up. I don't know where I am or what I'm doing. I get confused. I'm pleased to be here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. You're very welcome. Mahan, you have your hand up.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
There's a couple of questions from YouTube viewers. Chetan asks, what is the practice to become spontaneous?
Move into the moment. Move away from the dream that you found yourself lost in, that projects danger into everything and makes you so careful you don't have a life. Any other questions?
Chetan also asks, is having present moment awareness the same as having clarity?
No. Present moment awareness simply means being aware of what is real. The only thing that is not real is what you think. Anything else, Mahan?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahan. Addy, hello.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
Did you ever have low self-worth in this life?
Yes. Yeah, like everybody else, I came up through a schooling system that rewarded those that were successful and in a way punished or shamed those who weren't. And so like everybody else on the planet who's gone through a schooling system, I had low self-worth because the teachers that taught me and my parents made me feel less than when I got it wrong.
And how did you manage to heal that low self-worth?
By becoming my own best friend and accepting every part of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So I have a question about that. For example, this is a hypothetical one, but let's say I have low self-worth and the next day I suddenly accept everything about me. Would I still have to feel my low self-worth to heal it?
I don't really know. So when you try that, tell me what the result is.
Okay.
I'm very good with hypothetical questions. I get flippant.
Well, my question is, do we have to feel our low self-worth to heal it, or we just have to accept ourselves?
Whatever wounding we have put aside that is repressed, whatever pain bodies we have, has to be felt to be released. And so in the willingness to feel whatever's inside of ourselves, we can heal whatever is inside of ourselves. If we are not willing to feel the discomfort of whatever we've repressed, we will not heal it. Okay?
Okay. And another question regarding that is, I go through a lot of purging. Could this purging be healing low self-worth?
When you find out, let me know.
I ask this question because I feel I cannot find it out. I don't know how to find it out, so I ask you.
Well, I discovered what was happening inside myself by watching my mind. This having someone else tell you is not a good idea because they may be wrong. It's best to witness your own mind, and then it's your own knowing.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Adi.
You too.
Rajesh, hello.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello.
Why is it important to sit still during satsang?
Because you find the truth in silence and stillness. It's very difficult to find it in movement because you're distracted by the movement. It's that simple. Anything else?
Even if the movement is just slight, or...
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Hello.
You're talking about having an attachment to a goal.
Did you say a doll?
A goal.
A goal, okay.
What's the correct attitude to a goal that's not going to hurt me? Having a goal.
Okay, so in life, for us to succeed, we do need to set goals for ourselves. But it doesn't take long to set a goal. A few seconds, put a plan together to get to that goal, and then you put it aside. And when it's time to execute the plan, you execute the plan. You don't keep thinking about the goal unless you want to live in your head, which is a horrible place to live. Anything else?
so you forget about it.
Well, sometimes people remind me of what I've forgotten. Yeah, I don't live in my head, and I don't think I ever really have lived in my head that much. You set a goal, you make the plan on how to get to it, and then when it's time, you execute it. You don't spend time in between thinking about it. That's just living in a dream. That's a waste of life. Anything else? Okay. Vincent, let's see now.
Hello, hello Vishrant.
Hello.
For a normal person, those hand gestures has effect energetically.
Oh God. Did you say for a normal person?
Yeah, a normal person.
I think what's wrong with your system, it's not just your accent. I think you've got too much bass happening in your system, so it's very hard to hear your voice and you're booming.
Okay. I repeat the question.
That would be a good idea.
Okay. For a normal person, those hand gestures has effect energetically.
Honestly, it's booming too badly. I can't understand you. It's booming too much.
Okay.
Sorry, Vincent, you need to get a microphone that allows you to pick up top end of your voice, because your top end's missing. We're only hitting the bottom end, and with your accent, it's too hard for me to understand.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Zorba, hello.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
There was a question, and I'm trying to remember it.
Well, it's always best to write questions down before you talk to me, because that way you don't have to remember it. It's in front of you. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Hello, Sita.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello.
In goal setting and with discipline, can devotion be a motivation for a change there?
Well, I don't know how you put those two things together. That was remarkable. Well done.
Yeah, I can try discipline. Yeah, well, I think the motivation being heart. And for me, I can see I'm not very disciplined, and I want to know if I'm bypassing by, I guess, using heart to motivate discipline, or to motivate what my goals are.
I don't know how you could do that. Heart is just love. The only thing that love tends to motivate in a human mind is the wanting to help others. Anything else?
Yeah, I could see, I can see how, I guess being a mom, there's that primal programming to feel what my children are feeling, or if, for instance, if they're rejected, I feel that. And it seems to be more deeply than when I feel rejected, or, if from an ego perspective, if I feel rejected, I can see that more. But if my children are rejected, it's more of a reaction. It seems deeper.
There's no question attached to that.
So, I guess, how can I be more aware of that? in being a mom.
Sounds like you are aware of it. Anything else?
No. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. It's not a bad idea to write your questions down before you talk to me. Hello, Tirtha.
Hello, Vish.
Hello, Tirtha. Enough here? Thank you, Tirtha. Hello, Abby, yeah.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
Good to see you. Did you practice any bhakti yoga, and what are your thoughts on bhakti, on singing?
I don't think about that sort of thing ever.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. So, what do you think while you sing? Because in my experience, it looks like the mind stops when you concentrate on singing, or when you give yourself to in a kirtans or whatever it is.
Sorry, what was that? Your mind stops when you do what?
When you sing, when you go into
When you
bhakti
sing.
yoga.
Ah, sing. Yeah, I don't know. Does it help you?
I just want to know if you have any experience with it.
Right. Fair enough. Anything else you want to chat about?
Is that a no?
I don't know. My mind doesn't talk to itself. I've almost forgotten what it's like to live in the world with your mind talking. My mind is silent.
Yeah. So before your mind became silent, I can share. I had an experience. I was standing in a big square, and there was a choir of students. And when they started to sing, the whole space just shifted. It was like it became so much more silent in the space.
For you?
For me, yeah, it felt like the whole space shifted.
I wasn't there.
No, you weren't. Unfortunately, it would be nice to have you there.
No.
You didn't do any kirtans or any bhakti yoga before you woke up?
Oh, heaps, yeah. Yeah, but I teach what made the real differences, not the stuff that was just entertaining. What made the differences was openness, the practice of openness, the practice of meditation, the practice of acceptance of life as it is. These are the things that made the difference, the practice of self-inquiry.
Yeah.
So basically I talk about the things that made a difference, not the things that really didn't.
So you didn't have any experience of that in a kirtans or in a setting like that, that your mind really became silent and it supported you in some way?
I found that my mind went very silent if I got up to about 160 on the motorcycle, and then if I went up to 200, it became deadly silent.
Maybe if you go 160, it starts to sing.
Also diving underwater, my mind went silent. I like that too. See, I don't think my mind ever really went silent when I was doing bhajans or kirti because I was too interested in the women in the room.
Yeah, I recognize that.
You gotta remember, I was an Osho sannyasin.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you, Vishrant.
Nice to talk to you, Abby. Hello, Abaya.
Hello, Vishrant. When did you
Thank you, Abaya. That was not lovely.
Thanks, Vishrant.
Hello, Marnie.
Hello, Vishrant. My question is about sanctuary and how important is sanctuary when you're finding silence and peace?
True sanctuary is in beingness or heart. External sanctuary is really so temporary, so fragile. True sanctuary is in your own heart or in beingness. That's true sanctuary. All external sanctuary has no power compared to the sanctuary that you find in heart or in beingness. And so the sage finds sanctuary in heart or beingness.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if you tune in to the energy field here, it is beingness on display and it is sanctuary. It is part of the triple gem. You can take refuge in the Buddha field of the Buddha. That's sanctuary. You can take sanctuary in the teachings, but it's nowhere near as good as the field of energy, the Buddha field, the Buddha. You can take sanctuary in the Sangha, the group of people who are around the Buddha, but that's nowhere near as good as the Buddha. In the Buddha, you can find silence and stillness, and you can find your own true nature. And that's the best place to find sanctuary.
So beautiful.
If you're in a monastery or an ashram where there is no Buddha, you're probably wasting your time. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
I've heard it said that the mind can surrender to the degree that it feels safe.
Heck no. Then you'll never be able to surrender because there's nothing safe about this planet. It's got humans on it.
Well, yeah.
The most dangerous animal on the planet is a human being. How can you ever feel safe? You have to surrender.
I guess where I'm going with that is a matter of degree of safety, such as if you're living on the streets and you've got regular food, and if you've got a house that is you're paying the bills, and you've got generally a group of people around you that support your, at least don't get in the way of your journey, then that's a degree of safety that allows you to kind of surrender more and more.
Yeah, I understand. I did live on the streets. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was on the streets of Perth. And it's dangerous on the streets. And I was already practicing surrender to the danger. So I understand.
Yeah.
See, if it's not dangerous, what can we practice? If there isn't a threat, what can we practice? We can't practice surrender when everything's hunky-dory. It's only when things aren't safe that we can practice surrender.
You're not surrendering to the positive or good the good things as well as the negative or challenging or frightening things?
You can, but it won't help you much, because then when a dangerous thing comes along, you're going to lose it. I learned surrender by practicing surrendering to the dangerous things, to the things that could hurt me. And I started when I was a boy, because I was in a very dangerous environment. And I was into being cool. You can't be cool if you're uptight.
So external environment would have no real bearing, should have no real bearing on your ability or willingness to surrender.
The external environment is where we learn to surrender. Without it, we couldn't learn. If there's nothing to learn to surrender to, if there's nothing that's contracting us, what can we surrender to? Like, if you really love sugar, you could surrender to sugar, but that kind of surrender isn't worth much, you know?
Yeah. So this morning I noticed when I woke up, I had some anxiety knocking at the door, so to speak. So I just sat down and just let it be without trying to avoid it or just watch it, so to speak, but just be with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it had less power. Is that also a form of surrender?
In allowing yourself to feel it, yes, that is a form of surrender because you're not resisting it. And that is one of the things that will help you. I mean, really, if I look at my own journey, it was always surrendering to what I was frightened of. Fear is there to protect us, but it's also in the way. It's great while we're kids because we don't know how dangerous life is. But as adults, we don't need fear because we know what's dangerous and what's not. So I used fear as my main teacher for a long, long time on how to accept life, how to surrender. Because I was into extreme sports. And unless I surrendered, I could never have been involved in any of those. If you've woken up in the morning and you're full of anxiety, it means you've had a nasty dream. Something's frightened you in your dream and it's a hangover from the dream. And you breathe out and you let it go, come back to what's real, because it's not real. Fear is not real, it's a projection to the future. Come into the moment and fear doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's a survival technique to project into the future based on what you think is happening or will happen.
Absolutely.
For what might come.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. It's a projection to the future to try to protect you.
Yeah.
But we can surrender the future. We can live in the now. And up until the age of about 2, we did. But then we learned to live in our heads, constantly projecting. Higher consciousness is about coming back to reality, not remaining in the dream. And the fear is a dream. It's not real. It's a projection. it has a physiological reaction in the body of firing off the adrenals and filling the stomach with acid, getting ready for fight or flight or freeze. But that's just a reaction to what's happening in the head. A mind that is not okay with what is, whatever it is.
So if that reaction or that anxiety is a subconscious, deep physical pattern, a default program,
Bring it to the surface, become conscious of it, watch it.
and just meet it every time.
Yeah, watch it. We make the unconscious conscious by witnessing it. If we get caught in the reaction, we're lost. We have to remain the witness.
If you fully surrender into it, doesn't the witnesser also disappear?
Not necessarily. My mind is always being witnessed. That's why I know it's silent. It doesn't talk to itself, because there's a silent witness that witnesses the silence.
So if the mind's not talking to itself, there's still a part of the mind that's witnessing its own silence.
Well, the mind remembers whatever goes on, whatever's seen, it remembers. Memory doesn't get affected. We still remember everything. So my mind remembers the silence, remembers the stillness. That's what it remembers. Because that's what's there. If something moved, it would remember that. Anything else? Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I'll try. I saw one of your Facebook posts, and it was around how in Vishrant was afraid of heights.
Ah.
Yeah, and you'd repeatedly jump off this, get how high it was, but it was a pretty high jump over and over again.
Yeah. When I was a boy, there was a 30-foot tower at Beatty Park Pool, and I wouldn't let fear defeat me. But I had vertigo. I didn't know that at the time because I was a kid. But I just kept climbing up, shivering, shaking like a leaf, jumping off over and over again, because I was not prepared to let fear dictate how I lived my life.
Yeah, just a question came around, had everything been fully surrendered before beingness?
Yes, it had been. I'd given my life to truth, or God, whatever you want to call it. I had no future. Gone, gone, gone. Anything else? Every moment here is borrowed time. Hello, Mahan.
Hello again. Gold Lotus asks, can acceptance of everything as it is lead to complacency and failure to act in the marketplace?
Possibly. That's a possibility. Depends on the nature of the mind that is surrendered. But that is a possibility for sure. Depends how the mind was structured beforehand. Anything else?
How to overcome that complacency if it appears?
Is that your question or Golden Lotus?
That's my question.
I'm answering questions for Golden Lotus. Anything else? Anything else, Mahan?
Yes. Rohit is a 16-year-old from India and who's an Osho lover and wants to say hi and ask, what is the easiest way to activate the Muladhara.
God knows what that is.
I have no idea.
You'll have to find out what that word means. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
So you got to remember, I'm a Westerner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're just by nature ignorant. Anything else?
Isabella asks, how did you overcome the sexual drive? I would like to know if it is an obstacle. It is very uncomfortable and distracts from meditative states.
Yeah, it does. I never gave anything up, ever. I gave up cigarettes when I became a naturopath because it was a bit silly to be smoking cigarettes and working as a naturopath. But that's the only thing I can remember ever giving up. Everything else gave me up as my consciousness levels rose. See, all of those type of drives are basically lower consciousness. As my consciousness levels rose, everything dropped away. I didn't give anything up. Anything else, Mahan?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think renunciation is silly, actually. So silly that it turns men into sexual perverts if they're forced to give up sexuality. And so many religions have bred sexual perverts because of their rules around sexuality. Hello, Bay.
Hi, Bhagwan.
Hello.
Bhagwan, when did you realize that there is nothing like called selfish and enlightenment?
Yeah, it took me a long time to realise that because I was going for enlightenment back in the 80s, but it was definitely selfish because it was for me. I hadn't understood yet at that stage that there is only one deal in town for enlightenment. Everything for truth or everything for God and nothing for you. And that is the only deal there is. It took a long time for me to realise that because the ego wanted enlightenment. It wanted freedom. It wanted freedom from itself. But eventually, because I started serving heart, there came the realization that while experiencing love, it's all for the other and nothing for you. You're the obstacle. You're the thing in the way. And so you put yourself aside for the benefit of others over and over again. This is the way of the heart. And that becomes a practiced way of living. Now you're ready for enlightenment. Because now, if enlightenment comes, it's not for you. It's over. There's nothing after that. If you survive enlightenment, you may become a light so others may see. But there's no guarantee you'll even survive because you're giving up your life. It's an end. It's not a beginning. It's an end. An end of the thing that's been in the way the whole time, the I. Anything else, Pei?
That's all, Bhagwan. Thank you.
Thank you, Pei. Susha, hello.
Hi, Bhagwan. Bhagwan, how can I deal with shame?
I don't know, does it play poker? I dealt with everything exactly the same way, everything. I warmly welcomed it. Warm welcoming allows everything to be healed. And so it's not like there was two different recipes. There was one recipe to warmly welcome whatever appeared. In the warm welcoming, we get to feel it all. We get to see it all. We get to heal it all in the warm welcoming. It's simple, really.
It felt like, when I witnessed it, a bit like guilt. Should guilt also be warmly welcomed, actually?
Heck no. That's you beating yourself up. Don't ever do that. That's a bad idea. The world will do that for you. You don't need to help. Never beat yourself up. Never, ever, ever. There's nothing wrong with feeling regret for what you may have been involved in this life, but feeling guilty about it, beating yourself up over it, never do that. Always be your own best friend.
Okay, I see it. It was a combination. The shame led to guilt. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, well, for many years, people tried to control me with fear and guilt. And because they tried to control me with fear and guilt, I got to see how fear worked and how guilt worked. And at some point, I just refused to be controlled by fear and guilt.
Yeah.
You have to buy it. I was raised by basically the Catholic Church because I was in a Roman Catholic boarding school, and they controlled everyone with fear and guilt. It was horrible. I just refused to be controlled by fear and guilt. Anything else?
That's all, Bhagwan. That's just very powerful. Yeah.
Thank you. Utsa, hello.
Hello, Bhagwan.
Hello.
Bhagwan, I feel love for animals and for helpless and poor people. How can I feel for everyone like that?
You have to remove your prejudice, darling. When you remove your prejudices, you can love everybody and everything. It's your prejudices which are tied up with belief systems that create an environment that filters love. I'll give you an example of that. Last night, after Satsang, we went out dancing. And at some point, I crossed the road to look at a picture of some wings on a wall. And an old Aboriginal man who was drunk begged me for money. And I gave him some, and then he begged me for some more. And I gave him some more. I could have had a judgment that I'd given him enough. I could have had a judgment that he was being rude by asking for more after he'd already received some. But I know that man. That man is me. How can I be judgmental about him? I love him. Anything else?
No, Bhagwan. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Vish. At a recent satsang session, you said that you don't have or no longer have emotions. Just want to ask you a question on two specific emotions. The first one is excitement. Do you get excited?
Never.
Can I give you a scenario?
Yeah, but hang on a second, Sam. Excitement is fear. If you really examine excitement, it's actually fear. I haven't experienced fear in 23 years of any kind. Excitement left me 23 years ago when fear left me.
Okay, well, can I give you a scenario, or not a scenario, a real thing that happened to me last week, and then we'll go from there. I was a volunteer. I was a volunteer at the transplant games last week. This is where competitors have all had a transplant, and I befriended a young boy. He was about 7, and got to know his mother. She's lovely, and the boy's father had had a heart transplant only 18 months ago, and the atmosphere there was fantastic. Everyone was happy, and we were barracking for his father because he was playing table tennis. And every point he got, well, we got excited and we gave each other high fives, and the man won his game, and I think he ended up getting the bronze medal. But everyone around there was just jumping for joy. Isn't that excitement?
You see, I would have had a totally different approach. I wouldn't have been barracking for anybody because I would have been on both people's sides. And because I loved them, I wouldn't have wanted to see anyone lose. I'll only play a game if everybody wins. If there's a loser, I won't play because it's against my heart.
Yeah, okay. The thing was that the way the atmosphere was there, because these people have cheated death, even the losers were happy, if you get what I mean. Everyone was just, everything was buoyed. But yeah.
Yeah. My experience tells me that most losers aren't happy.
It's hard to argue against. Okay, the other emotion is grief/sadness. Do you suffer, do you feel grief or sadness?
Not really.
Okay, can I give you another scenario, another thing that happened to me then? I went to visit my mother in hospital, and I was walking down the corridor, and on the left-hand side, I saw this elderly lady talking to the nurse. She was crying, saying, "I don't want to be here, I want to go home." So I kept walking. On the right-hand side, I saw this old man with tubes sticking out of him, yelling, "I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here." I thought, God, blimey, this is killing me. So I kept walking and went to my mum's room, and she was sharing a room with another elderly lady who was sitting down. She had a little tear coming down her cheek, and she asked me, "Have you seen Keith?" And I said to her, "I don't know Keith." And she said to me, "That's my husband. He should have been here 5 minutes ago." My mother saw me and waved me over, and she said to me, "Keith died 2 years ago." And the sadness was overwhelming. I mean, how would you react to that?
I love them, mate. And I know that they're all temporary. Everything that's born dies, and everything that is built falls down. This is the reality of the world we live in. And I've been with that reality since I've been a boy. It's one of the reasons I've had the life I've had, because I've never put anything off for later. And I've squeezed the juice out of life my whole life, because I don't know when I was going to die, and I suspected I'd die every year because I lived so dangerously. Everything dies, and it's okay that everything dies. If there's any sadness, I don't have it, but it should be when something is born, because it's born to suffer and then die. Yet we celebrate birth, not realizing that that baby is being born into a life of suffering, and it'll eventually lose everything, the same as you, the same as me. We live in a deluded world that everything is going to be the same, that nothing's going to change. But that is delusion, not reality. Fortunately for me, I haven't lived in that world. I've understood death, because when I was young, quite a few of my friends did die. And I experienced their deaths and saw the impermanence of life. And it's something we avoid as Westerners, thinking that we can live forever. The old ladies that wanted to get out of there and the old man that wanted to get out of there, they're going to die. This is life. This is their life, the end of their life probably. And this is how it is for them, because they haven't prepared themselves for death. They haven't learnt surrender. They haven't learnt acceptance. They're still shaking their fist at God and saying, you got it wrong. And they're creating suffering for themselves. Nobody's doing it to them. They're doing it to themselves.
That's quite profound what you just said, very profound. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Diana, hello. I can barely see you because your camera's pointed at the roof.
Yes, hi, Vishrant.
Too much space above your head. Look at
Yes,
that.
the camera is an inbuilt camera, so I cannot like move it very much. I have to put myself up.
Okay, that's okay, darling.
It's nice to be here. I was wondering, when you got enlightened, in the moment you got enlightened, was it an all of a sudden moment that was from one moment to the other?
Okay, so the satori's I had were sudden, but enlightenment happened as a result of being in the presence of somebody who's awake and finding myself as space while in their presence. And it was on a retreat. And so I felt the space the whole time I was on the retreat. But that's because I was floating on the coattails of this other awake person. And so it wasn't sudden, it was slow. What happened though, when he went away, it never changed. There was an absence of the I and the experience of space continuously. No I came back. And so I can't say it was sudden, but the satori's that I used to have were always sudden.
Okay. Was it something you did?
Awareness just locked onto itself like two magnets locking together. And there's just been like that now for 23 years, just locked on.
Did you do something differently at that moment that you haven't done?
Yeah, well, I died. My practice was the practice of unconditional surrender, which is death. And people don't like that word because they want to survive. But really, if you wake up, the thing that wants to wake up dies. The I dies. And before enlightenment, it needs to practice let go. It needs to practice acceptance. It needs to practice dying, basically, to prepare the mind for what is going to be found. If the mind's not prepared for enlightenment, it's highly unlikely it'll support it. And so I'd been practicing dying for an awful long time because I like being cool. I didn't like living in the world in an upset, tense way. And when you're okay with death, not much else can touch you. It didn't mean that I lived a dead life. I lived a very active life, supporting a family, running a business. But I got very good at death. I got very good at surrender. And so when this teacher left, the awareness stayed aware of itself. It never left itself again. And to this day, it's aware of itself. That's the story here. Now, how it affects or how it happens to other people, well, that's different. They might have a different story, but that's the story here. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Sounds like you've got a young one there, very young.
Yes, I do. He's 2 months and 13 days now. He has been very
2
quiet
months
during
and
the... I can go pick him if you want to see
Yeah,
him.
go on.
Or I'll show
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's him. Hello. Hello.
Hello. You're beautiful. What a
Oh, he's
beautiful
singing. It's Leona.
Leona. Hello, Leona. Hello.
Oh, he's...
Hello. Aren't you a cutie pie? Aren't you a little sweetheart? You're so beautiful.
He's watching you.
And you're
He's been watching some Satsang. Yeah.
First, really cool. Nice to talk to you, Diana.
Oh, I love.
Hello.
He's watching you.
You're a proud mum. Proud mum.
Yes, it's been a blessing.
Diana, I do need to go now because we're past the time. But it's
Thank you so
lovely for you
much.
to show us, baby. Love to
Thank
you,
you.
and love to you, baby.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here tonight.